Hey there, and welcome back to the channel. So the long-awaited Masters of the Universe movie is finally out, so I thought now would be a good time to take a look at some MOTU comics. And so today I want to take a look at the Masters of the Universe Icons of Evil Beastman special, featuring this guy right here. So this is the Masters of the Universe Icons of Evil Beastman special from Image and MV Creations that came out back in 2003. So this was part of the 2002-ish reboot of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, where they had the new toy line created by the Four Horsemen and the animated series. And so they had done an episode of the show kind of telling Skeletor's origin, how he started off as like a sorcerer named Keldor and was injured and, lost his face basically. So this is kind of an origin story for Beastman and how he came to be in Skeletor's service. And so we have this intro here. Before Adam was given the power of He-Man, before Grayskull held the power of the Elders, before Skeletor terrorized Eternia in search of the universe's ultimate power, there was Keldor, a skilled fighter who had begun to learn the dark art of sorcery. Keldor lurked in the shadows, building his army to challenge the forces of good. And over time, Keldor gained the loyalty and respect of the most vile and evil creatures ever to exist on Eternia. Relive the tales of some of these warriors and learn how they became true icons of evil. So this is a special written by Robert Kirkman, Ian Richter, and Val Staples on plot. And then Robert Kirkman has the story credit, and we've got Tony Moore on art here. Again, so this is the team, from Walking Dead back in the day. And so we have this nice intro page here with Beastman, very similar to the cover here that we have with him. So this is sort of him, as we know Beastman, as a henchman of Skeletor. And then this is sort of like how we're introduced to him here in the story. So the story starts out here in the forest, and we have Keldor, who will become Skeletor later on. Again, this is sort of in the past before that happens. And so he has seeked out this shaman in the woods, saying that he's basically looking for a certain creature. And the shaman says, I know who you're looking for. And he shows him these sort of visions of Beastman out in the woods. And here's, Keldor pulls back his hood, and we see him here. Again, this is him originally before his, injury that turned him into Skeletor. And so Keldor pays the shaman to tell him where Beastman is, and the shaman says that basically just being around these sort of artifacts and talismans that he has here in his hut, that Keldor's power will be increased for a few days, which, will play into the story later. So then we have Keldor traveling through the woods here, and he comes upon this village, and this Catwoman, literal Catwoman, sort of invites him in out of the rain. He gets attacked by this other guy who says that the woman is his. Keldor proceeds to get in a fight with him, and something attacks the wolf man that is fighting Keldor here. And then we get the big reveal here of, this is our introduction to Beastman here in the story. So again, this is the art from the, introductory page here. But this is the first time that Keldor and Beastman meet, in real life. So here Keldor explains to Beastman that he's looking to basically build an army, and he wants him to be a part of that. Beastman replies with, I'll taste your flesh instead. So yeah, Beastman lashes out at Keldor. Keldor attacks him with this magic blast here, but Beastman still kind of gets the upper hand on Keldor, physically here. He starts swinging him around, and Keldor blasts him with these sort of magic bolts. But Beastman is still kind of throwing him around here. He hasn't let go of his leg, and he's just kind of crashing him into the huts and things of this village. Finally, after he throws him, Keldor calls for his Havoc Staff, which was on the cart, and, we haven't seen yet so far in this story. And he blasts Beastman with the Havoc Staff here. And again, at this point, Keldor is still trying to get Beastman to come over to his side, but Beastman's not having it and just keeps attacking him. But then we get this panel here where we have these darts being shot into Beastman, and then we see these other characters to the side here that are just pelting him with darts, trying to take him down. And finally, he succumbs to the poison or the sedative that are in these darts. And then these guys say that, Beastman and Keldor will make a good dinner for their king. So they are, kidnapped and taken away to this village here. And so we find out this is sort of Beastman's people. This is like sort of the kingdom that he lives in. And then, later on, Keldor and Beastman awaken in these cages. And this other prisoner tells them that they're to be the feast for the king tonight. And again, Keldor is still trying to get Beastman onto his side, and Beastman doesn't want anything to do with it. And Keldor basically says, well, you can stay here and die then, or you can escape with me. And then we get this panel here where I think this is really kind of the turning point for Beastman in this storyline. He sort of realizes he needs Keldor to survive here. This is, kind of what leads to him being in Skeletor's employ, basically, in the future. So then we have Beastman and Keldor breaking out of the prison here, taking on these guards. They're not sure where they're going, but they run out, and they basically end up in the big arena where it looks like they are preparing to cook them. So now the freedom they were hoping for, but then we see the king, order all the guards to kill them, and so we get this big fight here with Beastman and Keldor taking on all these guards and soldiers, and then finally the king himself lunges at Keldor, and Keldor shoots him with this like super powerful blast, and it even takes Beastman aback here for a second. And Keldor comments here that Shaman wasn't kidding. Again, back to the Shaman's original statement that being around his artifacts would empower Keldor. And so here we have Beastman and Keldor kind of making their escape. I presume, this is a general or someone in the king's employ, calls for them to be captured and killed, and they put out like a bounty basically on Keldor and Beastman. And here we have Beastman and Keldor kind of getting away in the woods here, and Keldor sort of lays it out for him that there's nowhere for him to run to now. He basically needs to serve Keldor or he will die. And we see Beastman kind of begrudgingly accepts that fate here at the end. And on the last page here, he bows down saying, "Lead on, my master." This is, why Beastman is Skeletor's henchman in the Masters of the Universe series. Again, that's the whole story. So we don't know, presumably they're still alive. So the guards and the soldiers never caught up to them, never killed them. I mean, that could be an interesting story of like, how did they get out of that? Did the king's warriors catch up to them later on and they slayed them? Did Skeletor wipe them out? Did they take over that kingdom? Now the problem with that is, first off, this is from a reboot over 20 years ago that is no longer, canon for Masters of the Universe. They've moved past this sort of storyline and continuity years ago. And it's also written by Robert Kirkman, who basically just does his own properties anymore. He still works at Image, but I can't really see him working on a licensed book that he doesn't have, more direct control of, like the Transformers and G.I. Joe books that he's doing now. Because, again, those are under his imprint. He's kind of like licensing those books. I feel like it would need to be a similar situation for Masters of the Universe for him to work on that again. And right now, I believe Masters of the Universe comics are through Dark Horse, so again, that's a separate company. So really unlikely we'll get a sequel to this, but it's a good story, and it's good, backstory for Beastman, and I think this works with, the original cartoon continuity too, maybe. I feel like there isn't anything that would really contradict this from sort of the other versions of Masters of the Universe. You see Skeletor kind of deride his henchmen all the time, and they're sort of plotting behind his back, and it's like, why would these guys stick around? Well, we know with Beastman, he saved his life, so that's why he sticks around and puts up with Skeletor. But yeah, really good story, and there are some more one-shots of these characters that they did around this time, so I might take a look at those too. But again, just a really good one-and-done kind of storyline. And, if, you just saw the Masters of the Universe movie and you want something to read, I really would recommend this. These are out of print. I know there was a collection of these years ago, but I don't think these books go for too much either. So you should be able to find them online or at your local comic shop, that kind of thing. But yeah, really good, solid story. And, you know, it's Robert Kirkman, who honestly for me is kind of hit or miss, but this is definitely a hit. These one-shots he did years ago. And I do go back and read these sometimes, but these are some of the better Masters of the Universe comics that are out there too. So it's a good read. Have you read these? Do you have a favorite Masters of the Universe comic book? Let me know in the comments below. And thanks for watching. If you'd like to follow me on social media, I'm on Twitter/X @Detective651, also on Instagram @Detective651. Be sure to check out my t-shirt store at tpublic.com/user/Detective651. I've got a lot of nerdy designs on there, and there's sales all the time, so check it out frequently.